Yeah. Siege. Riley. Taz. Yeah. Set me free and give me death, there ain't no other choices. When I lay down and go to sleep, I keep on hearing voices. Little whispers in my head, man, is you fake or loyal? Rhino water, death is sign of baby, pick your poison. These little demons living underneath my bed, creeping. Know the real monster lives above them all, sleeping. That subtle in your closet every single evening. Thought you never see me again, looks can be deceiving. When they hear the sound of the drum, they'll be saying, oh Lord, here they come. Yeah, here we come.
We take play seriously. That's why ATK chooses Omen by HP and Windows 10.
Here we come.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to more ATK Challenger action here tonight as we have 2XS Esports taking on iEnvy Calypso. I am Ultrism as always, and joining me on production is Authorize, and as my second commentator is the one and only Sun Phoenix. How you doing?
Saving the best for last. Nice. I'm good. I'm excited to see a team we've never seen before. I'm excited to criticize Peach endlessly. I don't get to see him on screen in this capacity, so it'll be nice to watch him on the other side of the broadcast for once. But this should be an interesting game. A team we don't know how really they're going to perform, but coming off quite a strong performance against Vanguard recently. And Calypso, we know, have had quite a mixed bag, but last broadcast we saw them, they put up a really good fight against Neon Retribution, actually taking that map. So yeah, it should be a fun game. Not sure who's going to win, but the community seems to think 2XS are going to take this one handily. So interested to see if they get proven wrong here.
That's where the fun part for us comes in, is that we've seen a bit of iEnvy Calypso, so we know that they have some moments where they just play spectacular, weird plays that just work and work so well. And then we've seen them play other plays where they just don't get the consistency right, and then one amazing play turns into one amazing defeat. And 2XS we don't get to see. And if you guys don't know, the Peach ZA, one of their top support, is the guy who often does a lot of the production for us. So tonight Authorize is on the screen, and the two of them go between each other, and so we work a lot with Peach, so he knows he's into this tonight with us watching very heavily. So if we laugh at him at any stage, it's out of love, and
Yeah.
we need to clip that.
Good
Like,
natured, good natured.
it's good natured,
We'll talk
but
about it
like very,
afterwards,
very
make fun
intense,
of
very
it,
lovely.
yeah. Exactly. Looking forward to it.
All right, so we know that the two teams are 2XS Esports and iEnvy Calypso. On iEnvy, we've got BK7, Pale Native, taking up your two tanks. Both of those very capable and very aggressive players coming out there in that front line for Calypso. As your DPSs, we've got Drostar, 123, and Hemisphere. Both of those very proficient players. Very good time to kill between the two of them, and good target priority between the two of them. And then making sure everyone stays alive, happy, healthy, and in the right position as much as they possibly can is Apricornicus and Nixie. Nixie is actually Zonza, but just changed the name for tonight.
I think this is the name she usually plays on. If I'm not
Okay, there we go.
understood correctly. But yeah, this is quite a fairly stable roster. It's changed quite a bit from, say, when we saw them in RMG or in the calibration tournament. Notable missing names are Rich NSA, who else? Christmas. Those kinds of people who have Slick as well as a big one who have left the team. So we replaced here by Joestar, Apricornicus, and Nixie. BK7 though on that main tank. They've also been struggling to get their roles narrowed down, but more recently they seem to have settled on putting BK7 in that main tank role. Pale Native was a stand-up performer in the most recent match on broadcast against Neon Retribution on that off tank, so looking to him to put in some big plays today.
Certainly a good team there, and the chopping and changing might come in to haunt them, but like you say, they've been playing stably for a while. They are going to have to take out 2XS Esports, who's made up of Dankiel and Paleo on your two top tanks there. Little clumsy, interesting name for a DPS player. Don't want to be clumsy when taking out those headshots. And Go Outside, the names has given us permission there for it to be any permeation of Go Outside, because the number of O's next to each other, the number of vowels next to each other there is just not acceptable. And so it could be anything from Go Outside to Guutside or Goutside. If you hear the word side, it's probably him bringing up that second
Probably, yeah.
DPS position. The Peach today, the infamous Peach who's been running our production for us, is taking up that main spot and going to be supported by Cubic.
So this is a squad, like I mentioned, we haven't seen them on broadcast at all yet. So it's going to be a window into how 2xs operates. Obviously, we know the Peach Shadow very well. Another player I'm familiar with, fairly familiar with, is Cubic. I played against him like in 2017. So he's been in and out of the scene for a little bit. I believe he's an international player as well. I do stand to be corrected on that, but I believe that's the case. But otherwise, all pretty much no names as far as the community is concerned. So should be interesting to see how this team stacks up against the more well-known Calypso squad.
Should be interesting indeed as we see it. And one thing that's going to make it easier for us is there are no hero bans this week, so we have anyone and everyone available for these two teams to make advantage of. And they're going to want to do that in their first map. It is going to be Lijiang Tower. Very typical control point map that we see in the South African Overwatch scene. A lot of variation that we always talk about between the different parts of the map. And with the full hero roster available, it means that these guys really can make use of any techniques and any strategies that they want to going into this.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I love about control is that, like you say, you have the opportunity to see lots of different stuff on the different control points. So as we load in here and check what our first control point is going to be, that's going to set the tone for how the rest of the map goes. You know, there's a lot of the mental game that goes into this as well. Winning the first map, in fact, capping the point first, can set you off really well, both mentally but also mechanically. It affects how the ult economy, how that all plays out. If you win that first team fight, you can control the pace of the whole round quite nicely. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams perform coming out from the beginning and how the first map kind of colors their expectation for the rest of the series.
You know, this is a map, especially this one, where we've seen some very interesting strats. Teams going with everything from the plain Reinhardt shield and walk in to the amazing teleporter strats. I mean, this is one that a lot of teams in South Africa Overwatch are getting very comfortable getting that Symmetra teleporter onto the point. And I see Hemisphere has already picked that up. Like, as soon as we loaded in, he was ready there with the Symmetra. So obviously these guys can still change, but do you think the Symmetra strat will come out on top for the team who gets it right?
I think it could, but a very interesting composition coming out if they do choose to run with it on the side of 2xs Esports. Paleo on that Reinhardt, but they're running the Winston as well. Double main tank setup, very uncommon these days, but they're running a weird dive with the Reinhardt almost like an off tank. This is going to be interesting to see. Never seen a comp like this, so interesting to see how it plays out. But I think on paper, it could deal quite well actually with the teleport and the mace strat. You know, a lot of mobility as they look to move forward here on 2xs.
Well, Winston will certainly be useful against the Symmetra teleporters, but he is going to be taken down already at the beginning of the fight. 2xs just managing to get onto point so quickly with that Symmetra, and so they managed to get themselves a better position. Now the Symmetra Tyrant's doing a bit of work there, and, you know, Hemisphere, oh, what an amazing anti-heal grenade. They're going to be under a lot of pressure now. There is a lot of dive in the background. Little Clumsy managing to get a triple kill so far on the Genji, and so far, iEnvy Calypso has managed to reinforce with the Winston. Winston's going to fall for a second time in this. Going to be very far behind in ult charge, but it is going to be iEnvy after the initial engage, taking the first fight.
I mean, what a way to set the tone of the series. 9 players, actually close to 11 or 12 players dying in that team fight. Everyone did except for Go Outside, the last man standing on that Tracer. He has built his way up to the Pulse Bomb, and Hemisphere does have his shield, I don't even know what that photon shield. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. The Symmetra shield, the big one that you can't kill, you kind of just have to wait for it to end. TP moving on to point here. Looks like they want to get aggressive on the side of Calypso.
They are dealing with a very, very mobile lineup though, but with that Symmetra shield up in the center of the point, it means that they've got a lot of space to work with. They managed to steal themselves some plan at the back there, but Little Clumsy just going in from the side, managing to slice the whole way down that wall and getting 5 kills in that fight.
Oh my goodness, Little Clumsy stepping up here. She, I think it's a he, also got most of the kills in that previous team fight. So really impressive performance so far from the Genji. And now he does have the blade ready to go. Peach moving up to that nano, so could see a nano blade coming out. And they do have the Lucio ulti to back that up as well. Other side though, also with the nano boost, also with the Lucio ulti closing in, and a shadow of their own in response.
Oh, we see a massive anti-healing grenade coming out, and Little Clumsy, having built up this Drain Blade in the last fight, is going to go slashing into the backline. Manages to pick up even more of a kill, and that's them claiming this point again very quickly with a single ultimate.
Yeah, team wiped like quickly, as you said, even without the nano boost. So that is ult efficiency if you've ever seen it. They did also commit the Winston ultimate, but that's not going to be a huge concern of theirs. But they are now fighting. Pale actually did commit his ultimate there as well, so the Earth Shatter not going to be able to get used here, and he goes down straight away again.
Oh, that's going to be big. They've actually just been shoved into the hole, and they're spending so long just trying to survive this initial onslaught that they've been pushed all the way back. They've lost 3 kills already, and we're already at 90% here.
Oh my goodness, they're playing so aggressive on the side of 2XS. That's what you want to see. Calypso is on the back foot all the time. They're not getting the chance to play how they want to play. 2XS doing a perfect job of shutting down any aggression. You see, not even letting them get anywhere near the point to contest it.
Man, that was quick and clean from iEnvy. In that first fight, it seemed like 2XS had made that push onto the point. They had got the position that they wanted. They had set up with the Symmetra. They'd even got the pick on the Winston. Dankiel going down early in that fight. And it seemed like 2XS was going to control that, and it just seemed like then iEnvy Calypso waited it out and then initiated every fight from then onwards on their terms.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was just a case of momentum getting out of hand as far as Calypso is concerned. I think they're not going to feel too bad about that. Maybe a bit of nerves, maybe a bit of warming up that needs to happen. But they didn't really get a chance to show much of what they're capable of. They actually ended the round with so many ultimates still in the bag just because they couldn't get back to the point even. But now, different composition here, running that echo, running the ball. He's going to try and get the poop off the front line. He needs to be careful on the side of 2XS. He does get someone.
Oh, that's going to be the McCree down at the beginning of the fight. That's a lot of damage, and so BK7 doing well with that. And 2XS coming out with a much more mobile composition going into this, and they have been initiated upon there, though. It is going to be Paleo in the backline with that Reinhardt swinging around. Pale Native manages to take out Peach. So that's a big amount of healing that's going to go down, especially with that anti-nade. Nixie's going to fall from the side of 2XS, and so trades coming out both sides, both them losing supports, but it is iEnvy Calypso with a little bit more position that's being taken away from them very quickly. This mobile lineup from 2XS just allowing them to move around the point a lot more and take every angle that they want to clean it up.
Yeah, absolutely. But unfortunately, Calypso actually coming out on top of that one. The Echo there, putting in the work towards the end, and losing Hemisphere quite early on ended up being okay because obviously he's a Tracer. He can just run back into the team fight. But that was all set up by BK7 on that ball. Now, the ball is going to struggle a little bit here against the Mei that Little Clumsy is running. So again, Little Clumsy could end up being a key hero or player here for 2XS to win this one out. BK7 can have a tough time getting it, but he is up to the mines. Africanus commits the coalescence here. Let's see how this unfolds.
Oh, there we see the Mei coming out into fruition, just trapping BK7 off there, and that's signal the time for them to go in. We do see Paleo running into the backline. That Reinhardt taking far too much damage, though, into the backline, and even this Blizzard committed for this fight, but out of the position to take out anyone. They are getting a couple of kills so far, though, and iEnvy Calypso, after not the cleanest engage, is going to take the point. iEnvy's red. Oh, no. All right, so XS doing excellently in that fight.
Exactly.
Now we're back on track.
Yeah, is coming out on top there. And like I mentioned, the Mei, critical there to taking down BK7 and snowballing, if you'll excuse the pun, the team fight from there on. And that was critical. And I hope we're going to see more of that from Little Clumsy, but I also hope we're going to see all of these ultimates for iEnvy Calypso here come to fruition, but they are fighting into Dankiel's Graviton, and the Pulse Bomb goes down here.
In fact, we've got a Graviton Flux in here that could come out at any stage. Can't get eaten up by this Diva ultimate. And so there goes the Earth Shatter. It's picked up both of the tanks. There has been a Blizzard dropped into the center. So Dankiel's going to get caught out of position. Not managing to get off that ultimate just yet. But they do have a Reinhardt. He's been natted up. He's on the point and he's swinging around a lot. It is, though, that going to be the Echo trying to make this work. Spends the ultimate, replicates up, and they have managed to actually get the points here. After all those kills coming out for 2XS, it's going to be Calypso looking to threaten this back onto the point, though. They've still got a couple of people to take out, but with a Winston on the point like that, it should be a very quick clean up, and so iEnvy do manage to tick the percentage up. It's going to be 2XS trying to threaten straight away, maybe wanting to try and regain a little bit of that. Ooh, BK7's caught out a little bit here with that Mei wall, but the rest of the team just follows them. They are charging forward. That wall not stopping it or slowing it down at all. And so iEnvy Calypso now just pushing 2XS completely back onto their side of the map.
Yeah, nice aggressive play. Unfortunately, three members of 2XS, they're caught in no man's land as they tried to come in. The point was flipped, and then the call came out, get back. So they started getting back. And really nice work from Calypso, getting aggressive, punishing those last heroes and buying themselves a percentage point. Ultimates-wise, Blizzard, a big one to be careful of here. The Deadeye as well. Here comes the Blizzard, though.
Oh, and that Diva Bomb gets dropped far too far back. The rest of the team push forward with the Blizzard now. 2XS looking to fight onto the point. We do see the double Deadeye kill coming out. That's going to be on the Echo and on the Moira. Two massive kills. And it seems like there's Mercy almost going down at the same time. Somehow there, Nixie getting out alive. Keeping alive a couple of these people does eventually fall to the onslaught coming out from 2XS. And 2XS, with a lot of people and a beat still on the point, is going to make it a lot easier for them to clear it up. Pale Native now, in fact, gets shut out on the other side of the May wall. They've got the Echo, they got the Moira back. They fell at the beginning towards that Deadeye and managing to come back, but reinforcing who? There's only a Diva left alive, only for now. Now they've got a Tracer trying to contest this, and with iEnvy Calypso needing to take this fight, to clear it out, it is going to be 2XS managing to extend our point.
Yeah, messy fight there, but 2XS coming out on top. But Pell and his crew are going to be happy with that. They just have to win one team fight here, so they can choose to use the ultimates. That's a bad start. In fact, that's a no start as Drostar gets taken down by a little clumsy, once again making the difference. Brought back to life. So they might look to get aggressive here, but no resurrection to assist them. But they do have the duplicate coming out from the Echo. Lots of ultimates in response, though, from 2XS. The Earth Shatter, the Blizzard, and the Nano Boost, and go outside almost up to another Deadeye. So this could be an explosive team fight, one that both teams are going to want to win, given it's likely to be the last one.
iEnvy's got to take this quickly. They've got to come into this fight, and they've already built out a couple of these ultimates. Go outside, in fact, managing to get up to his ultimate quickly enough. Now Blizzard got to trap both of them onto the point. Somehow the Reinhardt and the Mercy being knocked out of there as Palio came through with that fight. He actually knocked him outside of the Blizzard. That was a guaranteed kill for them. Now they're going to be on the back foot trying to take this point, as iEnvy Calypso has a lot of people to support the point. They've even managed to get up the Valkyrie, with Apricornicus dropping the Coalescence on the back line as well, keeping the team alive. They've got so much sustain for this. It's going to be 2XS who needed to take this fight all the way, and now they're just trying to drag it out desperately between the Tracer and the Wrecking Ball, spinning around the points. They've also got a Reinhardt who's now reinforced them. They don't have the healers, though, to really try and sustain this. So without it, they've dropped a couple of the bombs, which is going to give a bit of space. Palio managing to, in fact, get up a couple of kills. That's 3 for him now, and they've turned it around. They've actually got the pin now onto the Raging Monkey. Dankiel picks up the Diva as well, and somehow 2XS, after desperately holding on to this point, just trying to drag it out with no support and no healing, has managed to turn around onto their own, and they've pulled out this overtime. Overtime's going to go down quickly, and 2XS takes it.
Okay, we're in for a bit of a very solid fight here. 2XS do end up taking the 2-0, but I mean, Calypso was so close on that map. But just like that team fight opening was a comedy of errors, because Dankiel comes in, boops both tanks off the map, but both of them just get right back on, and Dankiel ends up feeding his own life there on the ball. And from that point, it just kind of unfolds in Calypso's favor. But with the stall, when he comes back, he actually just buys so much time for his team to get back in the mix and onto the point. And when they get onto the point, they just win out the team fight, courtesy of his mines, courtesy of some nice swings from Paleo. And the respawns come in, they clean up the team fight nicely. Really strong play from 2XS, but a lot to show there for Calypso. And I think, like I mentioned on that first map, they didn't really get to show what they wanted to do, how they wanted to play. They just got dominated by the aggressive play of 2XS. But on that second point, we got a much better sense of how they match up. Now, Control, as we know, is a bit more of a coin flippy style of map. It's much more about sometimes what happens on the map than the relative skills of the two teams. Coming into our next map here, which we'll wait to see what it is on Hybrid, that's going to be a lot more about strategic play and actual, planned execution and those sorts of things, where you can get a sense of who the better, more well-rounded team actually is. Control tends to come down to mechanics, and it seems, at least for now, like 2XS the better team in that sphere.
It was separated by such a small margin. I mean, you saw there, like that Blizzard came out, they actually had won the team fight at that stage. They got a couple of good Earth Shatters down there, and they were getting the setups that they needed. They just couldn't quite finish it off, and so that can make the difference between winning the fight or losing the fight, and the percentage that comes as associated with that. But with the payload map you talk about, we have to push it a little bit more, assuming they can take the first point, obviously being a hybrid map. Kings Row is out, the obvious public favorite, but we are going to be going to Hollywood.
Yeah, so you mentioned something there, and That's the kind of thing you don't see from top level teams, is letting a ball get that much value stalling. The players in the real tippy top teams, the ATKs, TCPs, and all that, because the DPS are so much better aim wise, they get rid of the ball swinging around the point so quickly, they clean up the fights a lot more quickly. So that's why we get these drawn out fights all the time. But like you say, heading into Hollywood here, a lot of different options. In some ways, like the control point maps, these maps are also typified by different phases. So you've got your opening of the map, which is generally more static. On this map, not a ton of high ground to abuse, but still some space to work with there. So a dive or a more static composition can work. The second phase, you tend to see teams favor the dive quite often because you can abuse the high ground. And otherwise the sniper heroes as well for the same reason. And the third point is again a lot more enclosed, a lot more of a closed corridor. Farriers don't see as much play on there, and echoes for that reason. The roof is quite low. But so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these teams respond. But the first step always in Overwatch is getting the first point, and that's been proving quite difficult for a lot of these teams.
You know, I like Hollywood in particular because there's so many ways to assault the map. You've got to draft your strategy around how exactly you want to attack. And so it can be difficult for a defending team to defend against it. But if the assault team doesn't actually have a clear set out plan, you know, we want to push onto high ground, we want to get around the back, we need to get some sort of pick with a sniper along the sight lines that are possible along this map. If you don't have that sort of already stipulated idea that your team is working towards, it can be very difficult to take it. But once a team has got something set up, it can be very difficult for the reverse team, for the defending team, to try and guard that out. We see 2XS here going again with a very mobile composition here. The semi-tank, semi-barrier strategy here with the Reinhardt and Winston as your front tanks.
Very, very unusual, like I say, to see this double main tank squad. Usually this Winston would be a diva, but it actually feels like usually the Reinhardt would be a diva because they're running a dive composition outside of the Reinhardt with the exception of the Anna. So a very unusual composition, but we saw how well they used it on the previous map. So interesting to see that. More of a traditional dive here, although running the Sombra and the Echo damage is a little bit on the low side for Calypso, but they've got a lot of utility out of their heroes and a lot of mobility as well.
iEnvy Calypso, certainly with the more tempo-based team lineup, there's a lot of heroes here. You know, you talk about the Echo, you talk about the Sombra, both very cooldown dependent heroes to get out any sort of utility. They've got a Winston who's jumped into the backline. That is going to be a big pick straight away. Hemisphere enabling that monkey into the backline to take out the Peach on the Anna, in fact, and instead going to be Paolo now taking out BK7. The monkey having done the work that he needed to. It is going to be 2XS, keeping alive a little bit more. A nice anti-heal grenade, puts a lot of pressure on the supports. In fact, both of them are going to go down now for iEnvy Calypso, and that might be the end of their push. They didn't do enough damage here at the beginning. They got a nice early pick. They've got some reinforcements now. They don't have the support, but there are a couple of health packs for them to play around now, and they have managed to take this first point after a great initiation.
Oh, it's a PP, a long... Oh, let's rephrase that. He's putting out many Ps there because I think so headset died for someone on the beach. So, yeah. So that was a long drawn out team fight. A very, very nice initiation from Calypso there. I love what we saw from them, letting Hemisphere on the Sombra get into position and then initiating aggressively with BK7. We saw they immediately got rid of Peach. Once that main healer goes down, it's difficult to respond after that. That said, though, 2XS did do quite a good job. BK7 overcommitted a little bit and immediately got taken down by Paleo's Reinhardt again. That weird composition coming into favor because you wouldn't ever expect to dive a team running a Winston. You wouldn't expect to be killed by a Reinhardt. Very unusual composition, but working out for them there. One thing I don't think we saw on camera is that Go Outside did an excellent job of getting on top of Apricornicus and putting him under pressure, which limited the healing to the tanks. So that was really, really nice play, really heads-up play from the DPS player for 2XS, but unfortunately, not quite enough. Mechanics here this time favoring Calypso, although it looks like they're going to recontest for 2XS.
We do see there a bit of a recontest coming out of them. They had a bit of place on there, but a good heads-up play came out straight away from BK7 to jump onto that Anna on the high ground and does again reduce their healing output for this. And so while the rest of 2XS is going to be now struggling, he sticks the bomb to the Mercy. That is a beautiful play by them. We do see Dankio also coming out now, taking out the other Anna support. And so with that, he's going to start really capitalizing on this. And 2XS, after an amazing aerial bit of Tracer play, manages to secure them back onto this point just shy of 2 ticks.
That was a terrible ultimate from Pal Native there. I just have to put that out. They were never going to win that team fight. He shouldn't have committed it. But anyways, Biggest 7 switching onto the ball. What the hell is going on? I don't know. They won that team fight and then they unwon the team fight. I don't even know. The respawns came in. 2x's just barely bought enough time, and that stick from God's side onto the Mercy was just exquisite and really set the tone for how the team fight was going to unfold. 2x's now, rather unexpectedly, still defending here, and Calypso have to come in here, but they do have the Sombra ulti, that EMP going to be quite, in fact they have 4 ultis, so a lot of action here they go.
And there we started initially with that EMP just really shutting down any sort of counter attack coming out from 2x's, but they managed to survive for long enough that now they can start throwing some stuff of their own. They've got the sound barrier from the Lucio, just keeping their team alive for the beginning of this, allows the Reinhardt to get the Earth Shatter out, hasn't done enough in this fight. Now the Replicate's going to come out, and iEnvy Calypso, in fact, with 2 Reinhardts on the point swinging around, is going to have to try and clear something out. Haven't managed to get anything just yet. Joestar nearly getting up to that Reinhardt Shatter, doesn't manage to get it before the Replicate goes down. And it means that they're going to now have to try and take it out with this tempo fight. They're going to have to try and drag it out against a team that's arguably better in the longer, more stalled out brawly compositions, and they've now got a couple of people fighting. They've even managed to get the nano boost now, and that's a lot committed, but Palio managing to get that triple kill at the end of this just secures the fight here for 2x's after the initiation came out very cleanly for iEnvy Calypso.
This is tough to watch, man. iEnvy Calypso securing the teamfight win and then unsecuring the teamfight win when the respawns come in. They so often end a teamfight with 4 or 5 people left, and then 1 or 2 people just buy enough time for the rest of the team to come back in again, similar to what we saw on the control point map, Lijiang Tower. Coming in this time, they do have the mines, and that's pretty much it. Pale Native closing in on his ultimate as well, so they're going to have to try and do something magical here to secure the first point of Hollywood.
Pale Native has managed to pick up the ultimate there, so he's going to have a viable Diva Bomb in the middle of the point if they do overcommit. So 2x is going to have to watch their positioning a little bit. Diva managing to hold on to that for now, though, just to try and get some damage out here. Try and commit them. There goes the bomb. It's going to be into the middle of the air. Goes straight down into the Winston bubble, which goes away fast enough. Gets a double kill. Now 2x's looking to be on the back foot. The Valkyrie comes out from Nixie and goes onto the point, just keeping everyone alive, enabling these people there. Oh, we see the Dragon Blade committed there by Little Clumsy, trying to shut this down at the end. It's bought a little bit of time for the team to come back, and now we see Polio again swing with that Reinhardt Hannah, and he does. He manages to get the picks that he needs, somehow go outside, staying alive on this Tracer, just constantly being a nuisance into the Thorn, into the side of iEnvy Calypso. And while they take out the fights, while they get the kills at the beginning, there's so many people left alive for 2x's to just contest, to hold it out, and to get some kills the other way around. It seems like these guys can just stall out a fight forever.
I'm speechless. I'm speechless. We just watched the same thing happen 3 times in a row, where Calypso wins the team fight, Paleo comes back, kills 3 people, and then they lose the team fight. I don't even know what to, like, I mean, we got the coach in the call here. I'd love to pick Authorizer's brain here to see what he's thinking. He said, okay, he gave me, he said some very strong words, which I can't repeat. But he has thoughts. He has thoughts of his own. So yeah, I mean, Calypso looked like they had that point 3 times there, but unfortunately not able to secure the team fight. You mentioned go outside there on the Tracer, and that was a big part of it, buying time for his team to come back. And by the time because Paley was going down early in a lot of these fights, he would come back in when everyone's low, everyone's already scattered, and just start swinging his hammer and picking up kill after kill after kill. I think Calypso need to do a much better job of focus firing down the people remaining on the team fight. A big problem also seeing is that they're losing their DPS early on in the fights. So when that stall comes out, you're left with supports and tanks trying to kill a Tracer. And that's not the easiest thing to do. And it seems like a Tracer of God sizes caliber is not going to go down easily in those situations. That's where they're struggling, I think. So we're going to have to see if they can put up a better defense than they could manage an offense, and see if 2x's can, I don't know. I don't even know what 2x's is doing. They're just winning team fights that they shouldn't be winning. It's incredible to see. But that kind of resilience is what can win you in a match of Overwatch sometimes.
It just seems that 2x's has such a good idea of the flow of these battles and how the pace of it needs to be adjusted, because they get dumped upon by iEnvy Calypso in the beginning of the fight, but they just weather it. They go back. We've seen a couple of amazing sound barriers coming out from Quebec now, and so as this initiation comes into, manages to get the pin, but it's actually under the Baptiste Immortality Field managing to stay alive. Now a little clumsy doing some work, but now it's time for iEnvy Calypso to push back a little bit. We do see the sleep coming out, but BK7 just charging forwards with that horse of death as the Orisa pushes them back out that archway.
The battle cattle getting nice and aggressive there. Epricornicus, man, that was either the biggest brain player or the luckiest player I've ever seen. He got pressured down by Dankil. Paleo comes charging in, but he placed the Immortality Field to prevent him from dying to the Winston. And it actually saves him from the Reinhardt. So really fortunate stuff there. And that's going to keep him going, but that's a bad start.
Still got the turret up, which is going to support the fight, but you do not want to lose your Torbjorn at the beginning here. Someone's still not taking that turret out, though, that you could really follow up with it. And so instead, it's going to be iEnvy Calypso still holding very strongly onto the point, just retreating into that backyard, into that little house there, and being covered the whole time by the Torb turret.
That Torb turret actually completely won in that team fight, I think. They come in and look where it's positioned. It's when they move in, they want to be focused on killing heroes at that point. They don't want to have to look around the corner and try and deal with that turret. Genji especially is struggling against that. It's under so much pressure from the turret, and he doesn't want to spend 2 or 3 triple shots of shurikens trying to deal with it. So they're going to have to do a much better job getting rid of it.
Oh, the rally comes out. Oh, they're Polio managing to get a nice Earth Shatter from the back of them. Committing now as well this Dragon Blade, trying to break through this point. Bit of disruption coming out now from Dankil on his Primal Rage, but the Molten Core just sets down that zone of impenetrability for no one to touch as iEnvy tries to come in now. iEnvy holding so well there as 2XS tries to push in, somehow dragging this fight out again for a long time. We saw them dragging these fights out for a long time, but when you've got something like a Torb turret that's constantly doing damage, it's able to keep them pressured on for so long that iEnvy just keeps looking very healthy. They've lost a lot of players now, though. A very quick aggressive push comes out from 2XS, shoving them into the corner, and instantly 6 of them fall.
I mean, I don't know, Altruism. I'm watching the same team fight unfold every single time, where iEnvy Calypso seem like they're coming out of the head, and as soon as the first phase of the team fight ends, they struggle to pick up the kills to secure the team fight completely. Now, against a better team, funnily enough, it might be worse. The Calypso might be better suited playing against a stronger team with more discipline, because a lot of the time those teams would see they're losing the fight and then back out, right? Because 2XS is constantly committing those extra heroes and coming in with the respawns, and you saw it there on the attack. Obviously on defense, they don't really have much of a choice. But on attack, we saw they just kept committing heroes and eventually just grind out a team fight victory. So really nice play from 2XS, but Calypso have got to be so frustrated. So I think we've got a break coming out. I'd love to see how they respond to this, if they have some conversations during the break and really get a sense of what's holding them back, what they need to change. Because they're on the cusp of winning these matches, all of them so far. They just need to take that last step to get those last kills to secure themselves with team fight victories.
You know, the team fights, maybe they need to swap up some composition to prepare for a slightly longer team fight, or they need to get their time to kill down. And if they're going to go for that quick burst team fight to win it instantly, they need to be able to do that. They need to get the target priorities going. They need to start focusing the right people and all focusing them to clean them up quickly one by one, so that you don't have to rely on some big play. Guys, we are going to go to a quick 2-minute break. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be coming back for our next map, which is going to be an assault map. Going to be interesting to see how the two strategies are playing up and if iEnvy Calypso can bring it back at any stage. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to more 80k Challenger Division action here. We've got 2XS Esports showing a dominating performance as they take on iEnvy Calypso. I am Ultrism, and joining me is the very perplexed Sun Phoenix.
Very perplexed, and like I said, I was excited to pick Authorize's brain in the break, and he's as perplexed as I am. Let's put it that way.
Perplexed is a nice way of putting it.
Yes, he's I'll say a little bit frustrated with what he's seeing, and it makes I can understand it from a coach's point of view. Calypso struggling just to clean things up, like we've mentioned, and you mentioned in the break as well while we were talking about it, that methodical play of identifying what the issue is and solving it. But once you've started the team fight off, that methodical play of just taking each step one by one. We're going to focus this next, we're focusing this next, and just playing as a unit to deal with what needs to get dealt with. There were a couple of times there where there were people who Calypso had the tools to deal with him, but for whatever reason didn't. Now, whether that's a communication issue or just simply a concentration issue remains to be seen. But like I mentioned, they have this break now. They can decide, or they can approach things a little bit differently, or clean up, whoever the BK7, I believe, is the captain, and talk to his team and say, everyone chill, cool down, let's approach this methodically, let's fix up the basic mistakes we're making and go into this. We're talking about this a lot from Calypso's point of view, because they're making quite obvious mistakes where it seems like 2XS is doing a much better job of capitalizing on those mistakes. It seems like 2XS, while playing well, Calypso is leaving them a lot of room to do what 2XS wants to do, which is just play hyper aggressively with their compositions and with their hyper mobile players and heroes. So the Genji, the Trace, they just want to get on top of you, do damage, and when the team fight draws out like that, that's when they shine, especially if you're not putting their supports under any pressure, and then you can just keep getting healed up all the time. So Calypso need to find a way to deal with that style that 2XS wants to play. 2XS needs to be careful if Calypso in the next map, which looks like it will be Volskaya Industries, if they figure out how 2XS wants to approach this and solve the problem that 2XS was presenting them with, it's up to 2XS Esports to then counter-respond and figure out a new style or change their style up and adapt their style to Calypso's own style of play. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic here, but it's going to depend, in my opinion, on Calypso dealing with the problem that is 2XS.
It seems like Calypso, to me, has had definite strategies. We saw that really nice combination where they had the Sombra that went into the background, scoped it out, figured out where the Ana was, and when BK7 jumped in, Peach was dead at that stage. At the second that the team fight started, they've got the way that they want to initiate. They've got the way that they want the team fights to go, and they actually are starting those fights well enough that they've given themselves the opportunities to win the rest. Now it comes to clearing the rest of that. So hopefully they have managed to settle themselves, because that is going to be so critical here on this assault map. We've got 2 points that you have to capture, one after the other. First one normally gets taken pretty well by the teams, having the bigger time bank, having that spawn re-advantage. But if 2XS can just drag it out and stall like they have on every point so far, I mean, iEnvy Calypso couldn't take the first point in a hybrid map. How are they going to take the first point in an assault map?
Yeah, I mean, the first point is the same, but it's the second point that's also the same. So even if they do take the first point, they've got the they've got the added benefit of doing it again for the third time. So it's going to be a difficult push for them, but they do have an opportunity here, like I said, to respond. Now, compositionally, we're seeing something very similar out of 2XS here, running the double shield this time, not running the double main tank composition, but they are running Ghost outside on the Widowmaker, and they are running the Kamzi on that Genji. Seems to like that hero quite a lot, as Calypso running in aggressively here.
Oh! They gave Go Outside just so much space with that sim wall, and he's just doing so well, managing to take out both of the offensive DPSs there, taking out Joestar at the beginning of the fight, and that Mei was so critical to their lineup that taking him out instantly as they walked in. He does eventually go outside and take a walk all the way back from the beginning, but he won them that fight before it even started.
Yeah, 100%, and that what we saw unfold there was what needs to happen, but right at the beginning. Pale Native did a nice job of getting on top of Go Outside and shutting him down, but it was too late. By the time they realized he was the issue, it was too late. They'd already lost 2 or 3 heroes. So, but now that they know he's an issue, they can identify where he is, and Pale Native needs to be the one to get aggressive on him because they have nothing else to deal with him.
Oh, there he goes, straight away. You can see he's shutting him down from the get-go. He's peeled off from his team, just threatened that high ground and just jumped in on them. So I like to see this from Calypso. The fact that they're seeing where the problems are lying and trying to combat it. Now they're trying to chase down a Genji. Oh, that's left them completely open to a flame from the side. Palio just getting such a nice Earth Shatter there. Probably not expected to pick it up in a single fight, and he does. Now the Dragon Strike comes out, and Little Clumsy actually getting nothing out of that, paying with his life, and it means Peach is going to have to try and drop something here to make this last, because they've got no one to contest this point. He's going to have a nano boost now, but with iEnvy Calypso on this point, I think that they're going to try and contest very soon. They're going to start it off with the Gravitic Flux, only picking up the Reinhardt and slamming him down there. Dankyo's got the healing behind him. Oh, Lucio sitting so low there. Somehow Nixie managing to survive on the point, and Calypso has pushed off to excess. And while they've got some support here, they are not going to try and contest this. And Calypso finally managing to find their feet and push an objective.
It's a miracle, Altruism. It's a Christmas miracle.
I was trying to be nice.
They finally won a team fight. This team has been winning team fights every map and then losing them before the team fights finish. It's so frustrating to watch, but I'm so glad they found their footing here, and after such a bad start, but they're getting super aggressive now.
And that was especially considering that awful initiation that they had to subject from Palio. Now Palio even going down through the nano boost. iEnvy Calypso just sitting here on point. Hemisphere trying to secure a bit more space. Does get the space, but doesn't get the kills. Instead pays with his life there as the Death Blossom comes to nothing. Oh, that beat dropped just as Cubic there trying to keep himself and Peach alive. It is the two supports, so they are going to be vital in keeping the rest of the team alive as they push back onto the point there. Palio constantly always a powerful presence for reinforcement there. Coming in, they're giving some space to Little Clumsy to clear up the rest of them. And again, 2XS managing to come back on a team fight that Calypso thought they'd won.
That was a little bit more 50-50, and a 50-50 fight on the second point of a 2CP map is a 100-0 fight for the defending team. You need a clean up. You need a very, very clean team fight initiation to actually take the fight. So I think 2XS was pretty well in control of that from the get-go. But a lot of ults committed there, a little bit unnecessary. I didn't like that last ultimate from Cubic, and Nixie in fact had her ultimate shut down as she popped it. She got killed by Paleo. So really unfortunate there. Lots of ultis for both teams here. This could be quite explosive.
Could be interesting to see. It's going to be up to iEnvy to try and get an initial Earth Slam. Instead, it's going to be Palio finding the Earth Slam, just wanting to shut this down straight away. Identifying Droestar being a problem there, and so go outside, drops that Pulse Bomb onto him. And the rest of the team cleans up after a great initiation coming out from Palio. So iEnvy managing to hold on to all of their ultimates for that fight, but 2XS only needing to expend the one to really get anything out of that.
They expended the Pulse Bomb as well, and it looks like boost. So quite a bit actually expended for 2XS Esports there. But they are coming in on the Gravitic Flux here, and they do have the Genji ultimate. Interesting choosing not to commit that with the nano boost this time. Peach, of course, committing his in the previous team fight. But like you say, Calypso with a lot to work with here. The Blizzard, the Self-Destruct, the Shatter, and the Coalescence, which they commit first.
Coalescence is going to be very useful here at the beginning of the fight, managing to try and keep everyone alive. He has managed to pick up 2 people on the backside with that Dragon Blade, but it is going to leave the rest of his team here. The Shadow goes down, doesn't really pick up anyone though, unfortunately. The May Wall shutting off the rest of the team as well, and so it is going to be 2XS managing to clean up this point after pretty much every ult committed there by 2XS, by Calypso.
Yes, so heads up play there from Little Clumsy. She saw that the Coalescence has been popped. He saw that the Coalescence had been popped. He saw that the Moira had been anti-healed, and he used that opportunity to kill her with the blade because he knew she couldn't shift out of there. So really nice play from him, and that set things up poorly because then after he'd gone down, Calypso committed all the ultimates and really got nothing out of that. You saw the combo try to come out, but not well executed. Nice move from Cubic there. It's going to be really annoying for Calypso, but unfortunate team fight there for Calypso.
Oh, now they pushed in quickly, but a couple of the people on the back lines were picked up by the Gravitic Flux, just stalling out the team fight. Now we see an Earth Shatter coming down there. Palio managing to get one with it, BK7 doing the damage the other way now, taking him out. It's going to be not enough, though, as the Pulse Bomb again onto Droestar. just manages to take it out, and poor Apricornicus now on point trying to lure this out. And 2XS again now ending this one with still three ultimates in the bag, even Little Clumsy managing to get another Dragon Blade up.
You're okay with that as Calypso though, because now you've had an opportunity to build some of your ultimates back up. They came into that previous team fight with nothing, and now they've got a few ultis to work with moving into potentially the last team fight. But as you mentioned, 2XS still have a lot in the bank, and most importantly, that Nano Blade. We're going to be looking to Nixie here to counter that out with the sound barriers.
Oh, there it is. And the sound barrier does come out early enough that it's able to keep everyone alive. And it's going to be a lot of resources committed to it. Here comes the Nano Boost, though. It wasn't committed with that Dragon Blade, and so they've got a sound barrier of their own. 2XS now going to be looking to push into it. Polio managing to do a lot of swings. Instead, the Death Blade comes out in the background. Great play there, managing to also take out Go Outside. And that was a lot of damage. Hugely responsible for a lot of the pressure that's been coming out from 2XS in this game, though. They still have to worry because Little Clumsy doing work, and now that Go Outside is back up on point. They have not managed to clear this up fast enough. They've got a lot of people on the points, and it's still contested, though. There, Dankiel managing to stall out a lot as they get some reinforcements. Polio with a big Earth Shatter comes in now, and that's going to take a little bit of advantage coming out away from Calypso. Calypso manages to drop this Blizzard onto the point. They've got the second tick, and while there's still a couple of people contesting, it's now starting to get the final hour for 2XS. They're getting people onto the point, and Little Clumsy trying again. BK7 now with a massive Earth Shatter clears a lot of people onto the point, reinforced by the Coalescence, means that it's just going to be Dankiel trying to stall this out at the end. Polio's coming charging in from the back line, doesn't manage to pick anyone, actually goes across the point now, going to try and swing from the back lines. He needs to try and get some sort of support though. Without any healing, he is going to go down very quickly. There's a Tracer now contesting the point with just fractions away, and iEnvy Calypso actually managing to get this one out in overtime.
Okay, that's what we wanted to see out of Calypso. Actually putting some fire in there and closing out a couple of team fights. Really nice play from them, and I hope that's a turning point in the series from Calypso's point of view, because I think they were, like we've mentioned, just on the edge of winning these matches and team fights, and just needed that extra push to get over, and we saw doing a much better job of that. If I'm to criticize 2XS a little bit, their ult economy could use a little bit of work. I saw a couple of pulse bombs coming out after they'd already killed 4 people, and a lot of the times committing ultimates a bit too, not aggressively, but late in team fights. And both teams, in fact, could do a better job of managing their ult economy. That said, 2XS can be quite happy with how that defense went. It wasn't overtime, so it does give them an opportunity here to close out the map pretty effectively should they finish with more than a minute left on the clock. And with the way they've been playing so aggressively, they could be looking to take a very, very quick couple of points here if Calypso can't stem the tide.
It's going to be up to iEnvy Calypso there. We saw them being constantly the aggressive team, constantly having to push into the defense of 2XS, and 2XS not really actually having to show an opportunity for them to really push into Calypso at this stage. So it's going to be interesting to see how 2XS, again going for that very mobile lineup there, Quebec managing to get the rest of the team to follow up on people like Dankiel, Little Clumsy, and Go Outside as they push into the front lines. And so they can choose the fight that they want to take. They are going to be going into quite a solid bunker stretch here with Pale Native on that Orisa. They've got a lot of people behind the shields though, and BK7 falling very early into this fight is going to make a bit of an advantage. They managed to level it out quite quickly, taking out Polio, and Dankiel also going to fall. So now there's no one to protect them from this Tourbillon turret as the turret does go down. So Little Clumsy having to pay with his life there, trying to take out the Tourbillon himself. And with the May here from Drostar on the point, it means that it's going to be very difficult for anyone to try and contest still. And so 2XS pushed back. Oh, this last little trickle out from Quebec.
Yeah, again, Calypso winning a team fight. Every time I see it, my heart sings for them. I'm not biased or anything. You don't want to see teams have this kind of a game where they lose team fights that they've won like so many times in a map. But doing a really nice job there. Both teams actually losing their tanks very early on. But like you mentioned, the turret there, a big deal. And it gave Hemisphere the space to do a lot of damage with the actual hero itself. So nice play from Calypso there. No ults to work with just yet for either team though.
Very obvious plan coming out here as Dankiel jumps into the back line. Now he's going to re-initiate with the rest of his team there. Just opening it up. That pulse bomb in the inside just traps everyone inside. Manages to get a triple kill, including the top and both of the supports. It's going to open things up now for 2XS. Just really putting the pressure in there, shoving them into that little cubby and cleaning it up.
That was a really, really nice heads-up play from God's side there. Like you say, they were all stuck in that corner, and that's the risk you run when you do that. It makes a lot of sense because you can shut the angles down nicely from a defensive point of view. But unfortunately, it leaves you open to that kind of a play there. He didn't stick that to anyone. It was just lying on the ground, and it still blew up and killed 3 people. So Calypso having to set up a second point defense here, but a lot of ultis for the attacking team to work with here.
So now there's very aggressive push coming out there. There goes the blade. It's going to be into the middle of them. They're going to have to worry about this molten core that's on the floor. It could pick up a couple. A little clumsy is going to fall to that straight away. And so with that initial wave being just fended off slightly, there's not enough of Calypso down that it's going to be a problem. Oh, Palio with a massive earth shot into the backline, supported again by the sound barrier, is going to open up this as an opportunity for 2XS. Just as soon as you think 2XS is done in a fight, they are coming in. They're going to have to go against the Stall King and Queen, though, of Hamster and the May in the back line. Hemisphere going to try and now clear out a couple of bodies on the point with that Reaper. He's got the damage to do it, though. He doesn't have an ultimate. Drostar going to be coming back in with the Blizzard. Nixie also has that sound barrier, but there's no one for him to barrier or her to barrier at this stage. And so it's still going to be a lot of 2XS on the points. They're going to get out that Moira. They're going to take out the Reinhardt. And so it's going to be, the Blizzard committed with Lucio on the point. Going to be able to stall it out. Has got that beat, but needs people to come back in here to try and make it worth anything. Gonna fall eventually, but has bought enough time for the rest of 2XS to still have to deal with red bodies on the point here. iEnvy Calypso just dragging this out forever. Dankiel managing to again take out Apricornicus, not managing to get into this fight. And so the support's just lacking a little bit here for iEnvy Calypso, but there's been enough kills coming out for the rest of Calypso that they're managing to still keep on this point. The beats come back up. They've been fighting so long. Cubic actually has a second ultimate. Little Clumsy coming up for one as well. So we're going to see another blade coming out there, and Palio has managed to get up another Earth Shatter. So being able to, having the resources ready to clear this team fight out at any stage. We are going to see the Dragon Blade coming out. We also see the Pulse Bomb. Apricornicus just getting shut down constantly by this. Blade's not really getting anything out of this though, and so Calypso's managing to find a little bit of feet for themselves, a little bit of space to open this out, and 2XS not managing to drag that to the end.
Take a breath, Altruism. That was a long one. That was like a 2.5 minute team fight. And there again, as I mentioned once during the attack for Calypso, this is 2CP. You need to win clean. If you don't win clean, if you lose anybody, it can just spiral out of control. And we saw that exactly that. The stall comes off for long enough, you end up winning the team fight. 2XS again overcommitted with the ultimates there. They jumped in with 3 ultimates, all of which didn't synergize properly with each other. They nanoed the Reinhardt, the Genji Blade went in, and then they used the Winston to split everyone up so the nano boosted Reinhardt and the Blade couldn't get any value. But let's see if they can do a bit of better job this time.
All right, I'm ready for this. Oh, that's going to be a good start to the fight. In fact, the Earth Shatter being dedicated just to try and shut down Hemisphere's Death Blossom in the background. It's too little, too late, and that could have been very useful to try and keep this point alive. As we see now, iEnvy Calypso just starting that fight, finishing it fighting. Palio, in fact, wasting that Earth Shatter.
It made a lot of sense to stop the Reaper ulti quite early on, but he'd already picked up 2 kills, and at that point it was pretty much game over for the team fight. Now, I hesitate to say that in this match in particular because it's never game over until the 6th man hits the deck, but still, 2XS now with a huge ultis advantage, 2 ultimates for both tanks here on Calypso, and Drostar moving in towards that Blizzard. They're sitting pretty here, and that's a good start for Calypso.
That's not the way you want to start this. Palio actually going in there in the beginning and just getting caught a little bit out of position means that he's going to go down. They don't have the tank to reinforce this. They managed to get the nano boost onto the monkey, but that's not a pick that you really want to be doing there because it just doesn't do enough damage in that primal rage form. And so it's going to allow iEnvy Calypso to just stay alive for so long in this point that they've got no damage. They've turned it around now. Hemisphere finally gets the kill onto the monkey. Dankiel not managing to clear anyone out there. And so still a valiant fight. Palio again now trying to fight this fight on his own, but the rest of his team has gotten back.
Unfortunate there for Drostar committing his ultimate. He was stuck by the Tracer, and then he tried to commit his ultimate, and then he died, and so he lost his ulti. Really panic decision making there, you'd have to think. Compositional switch up here. Again, also, I have to mention, ult mismanagement there from 2XS. They threw out the Winston ulti and then they nano boosted him. Now that's not an ult combo that makes any sort of sense, but it is one that can happen if the Winston gets very low and he pops the ulti to keep himself alive and he gets nanoed by the Anna to keep him alive. So that can happen. Compositional switch up here. Dankiel now on the Zarya, 2 support Paleo on that Reinhardt, and they running guard side on the McCree once again. So let's see how 2XS approaches team fight.
You see a lot of ultimates coming down at the beginning of the fight here. Coalescence has been used by each team to try and keep them alive, to try and stall out this fight. So it's going to be a long one. In the background, we do see Hemisphere trying to get off that ultimate. Doesn't get with the ultimate, but does get enough damage in there that iEnvy Calypso, after a very, very tanky initial fight, actually cleaned it up very quickly. And Calypso going to take a map.
Yeah, I personally thought Calypso were the stronger team coming into this, and so this is a lot more in line with what I was expecting to see. 2XS have done a great job of putting Calypso on the back foot, and Calypso haven't done a good job of responding to that. But on this map, that is...
So
they
good
were
to
all
watch.
trying to run. They were all trying to run out of there, and it was in their path, so they just got trampled by the pulse bomb. But sorry, as I was saying, Calypso doing a much better job of forcing mistakes out of 2XS on this map and doing a great job of capitalizing on those mistakes. I mentioned a couple of times, the misused ultimates from 2XS. Now, that only makes a difference if Calypso managed to weather the storm of those ultimates and fight back. We saw them getting much better initiations, Calypso, especially towards the end there. We saw them getting the first picks in most of those team fights. And 2XS a little bit slow to actually switch their composition up. And that's the awkward thing about a match like this. Both teams are always on the verge of winning. So you never know when your composition's not working. Because you're like, oh, if we do one thing differently with this comp, we'll win the team fight. Which is true.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just a bad comp. And I think 2XS's comp, while not meta, isn't necessarily bad. They're just... now Calypso is getting a much better sense of how to play against it, and I know they know how to play against it because Authorized told me that that they know that. So it's just a matter of
Inside
them
information,
actually-
yeah. It's nice.
Exactly. It's just a matter of them actually executing on that and doing that. 2XS though do drop that map, so they're gonna have to come into this next one with something a little bit different. But I hope they keep that aggressive flair that's putting Calypso on the back foot, temper it a little bit with some, I don't want to say intelligence, that kind of makes it sound like they're dumb and they're just running in. But temper it slightly so that they are a bit more nuanced with their initiation.
It certainly seems like 2XS is telegraphing what they're going to do at any stage now. You know, Dankiel seems to be a very consistent, I'm going to initiate into the backline. And you know that's what you're supposed to do as a Winston. But the way that they're initiating seems to be really well received by Calypso, who's just flexing a little bit now. Sorry, now we're going the other way around. They're just flexing. Calypso is just flexing a little bit against that initial initiation and managing to stay alive and then turn the pressure back. And so that initial burst that really just got them going in the beginning is now, it seems that Calypso has managed to turn it the other way around now. And so it's going to be very interesting. We just went from an assault map, which is two very definite, win the team fight, take the points. Now we're going across to Watch Point Gibraltar, our escort map that's, it's going to be interesting because now it really is a game of inches. You need to get those clean team fights to finish out a point, but you're still going to be able to take consistent fights on your terms as you're pushing the payload.
It could be very interesting with this kind of matchup with these long drawn-out team fights. So I think we're going to see a lot of stall on the end of points, like you needed to there. But who knows? This is a map I think that favors 2XS if it favors anybody. Guard side plays Widowmaker on this map. She's very strong here. You can abuse the high grounds with their kind of divey composition, and you can stick the Reinhardt on the point to keep it moving and brawl on points. So makes a lot of sense from 2XS's point of view. I think Calypso have shown a lot more strategic depth though, and that could favor them or serve them very well here on Watch Point Gibraltar. But this map is typified, as like I mentioned, by some very abusive high grounds that you can really use to your advantage. So I think that's going to be a key part of which team actually wins this map out.
You know, you talked about go outside there on the Widowmaker and picked it up straight away. I mean, that was never a question.
Yeah,
Is there anyone else that you're interested to see? Like, I mean, we've got the full complement of heroes available to us this week. Who do you like playing here? And who do you think these guys will be aiming towards?
Well, I mean, who do I like playing? I like playing Diva on every map in every game. So that's to answer your question very simply. That is my answer. What I would like to see here, though, is I'd like to see the teams run a little bit of pharmacy, especially 2XS, who know they can rely on their Widowmaker to put on the pressure. And so far, we haven't seen any hit scan coming out of Calypso here. So force them to run that or run the Echo or something similar, where you can abuse those high grounds both aggressively and defensively, and play around it that way. We haven't seen any Faradas teams, which is rather unusual. But I like what we're seeing out of both teams here. Like I mentioned, Dive on the blue team, Calypso, and the Echo, which was cool. No Mercy just yet. Choosing instead to run the Moira, who has actually been that's on experimental. Never mind, that hasn't come into the game. So running the Echo here with the Moira. On the attacking squad, more of the same. It's Peach on the Ana, Cubic going to be running that Mercy to back up guard sides. Widowmaker, little clumsy on that Genji. I don't think we've seen him play anything else this series. I stand to be corrected, but I think he's played Genji every single map. And then again, this strange double tank duo that they seem to be getting quite a lot of value out of.
Well, it is going to be 2XS going to be picking up that Widowmaker on guard side, so Joe's still going to have to look very carefully at his Echo play. Just going to make sure that he keeps nice and healthy. We see there Quebec managing to spot out where the whole of iEnvy Calypso is on that high ground. They've got the bump off, but it's going to be on the two very mobile tanks here as they go into this. Hemisphere is going to have to watch out. It has got down to the low ground, and so they're starting to surround 2XS here. Little Clumsy is actually going to be the one to pick up Drostar. Apriconicus again going down very early into this team fight, this time to the punch from Quebec, and so it's going to be 2XS managing to get a good push here at the beginning here. Calypso going to want to try and just regroup and reinforce here. They are going to be playing in the middle of the kill box here, though, as they are going to try and reinitiate, and so far it seems like 2XS not managing to take out this high ground.
No, and that 2XS actually doing a nice job of sticking their bodies on the high ground and preventing, taking the space away from Calypso. And you see, before the fight even really gets started, Calypso on the back foot, but that's it. A PP comes out and kills the momentum of the whole team fight. But as I was saying, 2XS doing a nice job of using their composition effectively. They use the dives, like I said, stick Paleo on the point, let him push the point, and be the kind of vanguard there that prevents Calypso from coming in. And let your aggressive, high mobility heroes control that high ground. We see them doing that really effectively, getting aggressive and getting a couple of picks. However, they have no healers that can get to them. The Lucio can go with him, but he doesn't provide that much healing. Peach has to stay with Paleo on the point, and we see the effect of that. When you're pushing that close to the enemy spawn, the kills can start to come out in the other direction if you're not careful.
Certainly, 2XS wants to take a fight on the high ground while contesting the payload at the bottom there. So the only way they can take that fight on the high ground is consistently. They've either got to take that high ground and win it very quickly, or they're going to start really atrophying to any sort of poke damage. And when you got a Hemisphere and Drostar, that's kind of the point of an Echo and a Tracer, is to win that fight by death of 1,000 cuts, literally, when it comes to Tracer's bullets. And so 2XS not being able to reinforce them there on the high ground, and it is going to be those very mobile heroes not grouping up there. Now poor this Ana is just shut into the corner here. They managed to drop out the beat though. So Cubic going to keep his team alive a little bit longer though. Drostar not caring about it. And so good pressure now coming out from Calypso. Just really wanting to get every kill that they can at the end of this fight, and a nice reinforcement to stop the payload from getting to that first point.
Yeah, nice reinforcement indeed after a difficult start to that team fight. Ultimates wise, coming out here, both teams with a lot to work out. Almost everything up here for Calypso. Just the Echo a little bit behind. Nixie closing in on her ultimate. Cubic though, he committed that sound barrier in the previous team fight, and that's going to cost them here. They won't have it coming into the next one. They do have Little Clumsy and Peach though, coming towards a Nanoblade and Paleo as well with the Earth Shadow. So this could be good, and with Hemisphere going down, Calypso on the back foot.
It's going to be big at the beginning of this fight there. We see BK7 just trying to get into the back there. Sorry, Dankil going into the back there, trying to take some stuff out. And now we see, beautiful bit of play coming out from Go Outside, managing to get a triple kill as the McCree, even without a dead eye. That's not very common that you just see the clicks going off so perfectly. Managing to clear a lot of space for his team. It's going to be Pale Natives bombs though that are going to restrict that movement that 2XS can move around in. So they can still just contest for a little bit. They it's not going to be easy for 2XS to push this last little bit, as iEnvy Calypso just sitting close enough to constantly put pressure on there. Now they've got the replicator of their own. Drostar are going to look for something. Goes charging off into the distance. Does manage to get the pin on Peach. So going to come back into this. Does have that Earth Shatter. Going to drop it to clear out this fight. And so iEnvy Calypso just holding for so close and so patiently to reinitiate there.
It's completely flipped from the first couple of maps, right? Calypso are now the ones winning out these long, drawn-out team fights. I'm not 100% sure what's changed here for both teams, but it seems like Calypso are doing a great job of just stalling things out and then relying on the reinforcements to win team fights. I looked at that team fight and I thought to myself, if Peach doesn't die, 2XS will win this. And Drostar with that 900 IQ charge from out of nowhere pins him and gets rid of him, and they win the team fight. So nice work from them, but aggressive play from 2XS here.
Oh, jeez. Now 2XS just really wanting to shut this out quickly. Has dropped everything that they possibly can at the beginning of the fight. The Earth Shatter coming out, the Nano Boost coming out, and they still haven't managed to get all the kills, though. There's still a couple of people left alive here. Pale Native and Hemisphere just going to be very, very annoying on this point. And so Calypso's job now is to try and stall this out. Pale Native's going to go down, and we do see Apricornicus coming back in. The Hemisphere as well having gone down, and so trickle by trickle these people are coming in there, but Esports 2XS managing to get them off for long enough that they cap this point.
Yeah, nice work there. Again though, it seems to me the team that loses their supports early plays a big part in who ends up winning the team fight, because with the way these fights are playing out, these long, drawn-out engagements, when you lose your healers, you lose your advantage in that situation. So the more you're dropping quite early there, compared to Peach, which dropped a bit later, meant that 2XS could just leverage that attrition a bit better.
Oh, we see a bit of flank plays coming out from here from 2XS, managing to get some weird angles here to initiate onto Calypso, getting a couple of kills so far. Go outside, getting a Deadeye kill, and also taking out the Echo on the back line. And so, again, it's going to be iEnvy Calypso just trying to maintain this point, trying to contest for as long as possible. BK7 is there, but he's surrounded by red bodies and is going to go down. So 2XS finally getting some momentum rolling on this payload.
Yeah, nice to see. Calypso might try and mount one last defense here coming into the next team fight, and they will have Pale Native's Mines and Apricornicus's Coalescence backed up here by Hemisphere's Pulse Bomb. So we could see quite a lot coming out here. Good aggressive play from Calypso.
That Pulse Bomb doesn't manage to get anything, and so the rest of the ultimate's going to be committed for this fight. Both teams really want to stop it at this point. Yeah, Calypso really wanting to just try and stop this for a little bit, and 2XS wanting to clear out this point, and so each team dropping as a lot of things that they can. And so Calypso is still managing to keep a couple of people, but it seems to be that same old Cinderella story here of them busy waiting until midnight to try and take this fight, and with very few people left, it's just the two supports on here. So they've got an Echo around, but when you got this many big hammers swinging in your face and a lot of support and a lot of sustain still out there for 2XS, managing to keep their supports alive in this fight. The Pulse Bombs do take out Go outside there, but Drostar going to pay for his life. And still, enough support here coming out for 2XS to keep them healthy onto this point. They've even managed to get themselves a very late nano boost into this fight. And so it's going to be Palio just swinging around, maintaining that position, and using that nano boost to actually get up his own ultimate. So the Earth Shatter is going to be here. He's probably not going to want to drop this if they don't have to commit to this team fight. 2 meters 64 is what they've got to push. And so with just the most mediocre and well drawn out, in fact, postponement on this point that we've got as possible, Go Outside manages to finally take down the Tracer, but there's just people alive still on this point. Somehow iEnvy Calypso managing to drag this timer all the way down to overtime, so even if 2XS manages to get this point, they're only going to have the minute 30 to get it all the way to the end.
Yeah, really long stall again coming out, this time from Calypso. And like I said, things are flipped. If this had been the map 1 or 2, that would have been 2XS doing all the stalling. So I'm sure Calypso happy to be in the driver's seat there, but now they've got a minute more to defend here, and they do have a few ultimates to do so. Drostar did manage to build up his Echo ultimate, Hemisphere again with the Pulse Bomb, but more importantly, the sound barrier here. They do get aggressive though, and the Shadow comes out.
Oh no, he managed to pick up the Anna with the replicate there, so isn't actually going to get anything out of this. That's a bit of a misclick. They tried to initiate straight onto 2XS, and so 2XS managing to get a bit out of the beginning of this fight, but it's not going to be enough for them to certainly clean this up and push it all the way that they wanted. They do need to try and keep the pressure up though, get it around the corner here, so that when they win one more team fight, they can push it all the way to the end. But not the entire team complement here, so not wanting to take a fight now, as too many of Calypso are going to be pushing forwards. Pale Native not ready to let this fight drop out yet, though. iEnvy Calypso just keeping all the pressure, so 2XS decides that they've got enough people here, and so Little Clumsy getting into that backline, managing to get the slice from Droestar, also manages to actually take out the Winston, and so not often that you see the Genji coming out successfully in that one. A very big push coming out from 2XS now, going all the way into the back line. Somehow, the people on the point are actually not the ones that they are worried about, going all the way into the back line. Bit of a coalescence here in from the back line from Apricornicus now, keeping himself alive, keeping the payload stalled out, and keeping some time alive for his team there. 2XS going to be pushed completely off the point now. They've got a single Lucio to stop this overtime from ticking down there. We see the Deadeye coming out, but not managing to kill anyone. They would have needed that, otherwise they're not going to be able to contest this. And Calypso managed to actually stop it from being pushed all the way.
If you take snapshots at different points in the team fight and ask me who's going to win, I'll give you a different team every 5 or 6 seconds. These team fights are so back and forth. And not back and forth in the usual way we see where, you know, a 10-second team fight, there's kills going each way, and that's that. It's like, you know, one team wins a team fight, then the next team wins the same team fight, and the next team wins the same team fight. It's crazy how these teams are starting to close things out and how good they are at stalling things for so long. It seems, though, like I've mentioned a couple of times, Calypso are getting the better of these engagements. They do end up holding 2XS off from the end of the map there. Now, it's not often we see this kind of match, and I think it just comes down to teams need to do a better job of actually initiating with their ultimates. Again, I've mentioned that before, but I think that's a big part of why these team fights are getting drawn out so long, is because they're not actually securing that strong of an initiation. They're getting a couple of kills, sure, but immediately there's a crackback of a few kills in return. And then things kind of unfold in one direction, but because you're fighting not at a full complement, you don't have as much DPS as you'd usually like, or you don't have as much healing, things kind of just tend to melt and become this amorphous mess of a team fight where it's impossible to know what's going on until the last player dies and the card starts moving. So really hard to analyze this, but very fun to watch.
Certainly fun to watch, and it's keeping me busy in each of these team fights. Certainly seems to be a lot of advantage going towards the team that manages to just keep those supports alive. So I think both teams are going to be keeping that very much in the forefront of their minds, because without those healers, these team fights are just dragging out for so long that if you go down on healing, you cannot manage to sustain against these teams. So 2XS now on this high ground, looking for their opportunity to engage. Pale Native going to be escorting that payload just underneath them, and so Paleo going for the swing down, actually gets held up for a little bit longer by that BK7 slam into the ground. BK7 falling very low in that team fight, managing to get out just in time. Hemisphere going to be on that Sombra, in fact, maybe looking to set up some fights. We saw that coming out on Hollywood. And so it's going to be 2XS just initiating slowly, patiently, and at the correct time to take the first one.
Yeah, actually, very nice play from 2XS. We've seen them kind of yeet themselves in very aggressively, but a much more measured approach to that team fight paid off. And look at the ult advantage for them now. Little Clumsy almost up to his Deadeye, and switch ups coming out from Calypso. So they're going to start back almost from zero here, and that's going to make it difficult for them to actually push in. But this comp, I think they feel much more comfortable on with the May and the Reaper playing into what 2XS are running.
An aggressive push now comes out from Calypso as they go very far into it. They need to be worried about the Deadeye. It is going to come out from behind them. Has managed to take out Hemisphere, but turns that shield around and allows the rest of the team to just collapse onto Calypso here. And so Calypso, again, just initiating at the right time, baiting in that fight into that little enclosed area, and then just dumping on them from every direction.
Now, I criticize 2XS a little bit for their lack of strategic depth, but they're showing up this time with something a little bit different. We have seen them run the Reinhardt Sigma, but we haven't seen Little Clumsy on this McCree at all, nor go outside on the Reaper. So they've changed things up here, and it's working extremely well, but can they stand up to what Calypso are pushing in with this time?
Calypso now choosing to take this high ground at the beginning of the fight, really wanting to stop this collapse of 2XS on top of them, really wanting to secure the positions first, but they haven't done a good job of it just yet. They've not really managed to shut off any particular angles. They've still got a couple of people in the team fight, so they are getting a couple of kills so far. Palio going to go down off the edge of the map, so going to be disappointed about that. It is going to be the Sigma just left alone here. It is going to be nano boosted up, but it's managed to pull out the coalescence. Now BK7 charging all the way through, not managing to pick up anyone, but getting all the space that they need. And Calypso finally getting to the top of this ramp. 2XS is one opportunity, and it's just going to be Palio waiting with that Earth Shadow for this to make or break this.
Indeed, Hemisphere on the high ground as well here as they push in. Oh, good start though for 2XS.
And that's going to be big. The Diva Bomb not going to take out anyone, and so Palio is still with this Earth Shadow. Now doesn't have to worry about the Reinhardt shield, and instead Calypso going to be pushed back before that team fight was even needed. And so with 4 ultimates in the bag, 2XS setting themselves up well to defend this.
Yeah, only really committing the sound barrier there. Of course, Peach chucked his nano boost onto the Sigma there in the previous team fight. But yeah, looking very good with 30 seconds left on the clock here for 2XS. Calypso need to build up Hemisphere's Death Blossom and Drostar's Blizzard to have any hope, I think, of actually taking this team fight. And with how split the side of 2XS are, those are 2 ultimates that are going to get difficult to get value out of.
Oh, here comes the Death Blossom into the background there. BK7 managing to get the kills, but that was really, in fact, that Pale Native just swallowed the whole thing. Hemisphere actually does manage to build up that ultimate fast enough to be useful in this fight. Takes out 2 of the squishies in the background, also takes out the Ana. So no healing now going to be available for Calypso in this fight. Sorry, for 2XS. And so Calypso managing to get that point eventually.
Okay, that was perfect ult execution there from Calypso. They held the sound barrier for the Sigma ulti, keeping everybody alive. They killed Go Outside so quickly. They're looking to get aggressive here, but I think we're just going to see 2XS back out here. So they killed Go Outside just as his ultimate started, and as you said, Pale Native doing a good job sucking up most of that damage with the defense matrix. And then they committed their ultimates perfectly to secure a nice quick team fight while still having quite a bit in the bag here. They still have Earth Shadow, they still have the Blizzard. Calypso with a very strong push there.
So now Calypso going to be sticking very closely together. There's a lot of movement coming out from 2XS, and so a very aggressive push into the center there from Go Outside. Yeah, all the ultimates being thrown straight away here as we see it's going to be 2XS taking the beginning of this fight. I wouldn't count Calypso out at any stage, but when they get initiated that quickly, okay, when they've got 1 person left, then I'll give it to
when you hear the horn
go,
they
can clear that.
Probably fine, right? I think when the team fight sound comes out, the team up sound is probably okay at that point.
I've been hurt before, okay?
You never know with these teams. Very aggressive play from 2XS, but again, committing all of the ultimates here. They don't have anything to work with, and there's still the Blizzard and now the self-destruct on the side of Calypso. So we might be looking pretty good for the squad in blue.
Oh, this is going to be interesting as we see Drostar does have that freeze if he needs to drop onto the backline. It does seem like 2XS not managing to hold this fight, just didn't have that positional advantage, and so Calypso actually going to take that in a very clean way, have enough in their background that they can clear this point up. There's going to be a contesting beat dropped out by Cubic to try and keep them alive. It gives Palio a little bit of the space to try to swing around with this Reinhardt hammer. He's going to try and pick people up. Drostar not actually going to get that ultimate off in this fight, and so going to have to try and reinforce and make something happen. Is going to actually be there. Interestingly enough, I swear I saw him go down, but it is going to be 2XS taking this fight and pushing them back. Swear he went down.
I mean, I'm shocked that he didn't commit the ultimate there. He might as well have been dead, but he does commit it now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Everything all at once at the beginning of that team fight. This is going to be a 10-second team fight one way or another.
Oh,
Pale Native, even with that bomb just sitting on top of the payload, manages to get 2, and somehow after the tumult of ultimates coming out, Calypso get the 2nd point.
Absolutely. Everyone committed everything at the same time, except for Pale Native, who committed his ulti a few seconds later and then cleaned up the team fight. So once again, Mr. Pale to the rescue here for Calypso. But they've now got an opportunity to win this map out. Remember, 2XS didn't get all the way to the end. So this is one team fight for both teams to see who wins this out.
Or Hemisphere Go Outside looking for an ultimate. This time gets a little bit more success out of it. Gets taken out quite quickly though. BK7 just very prevalent in this team fight everywhere that it needs to be. And so while 2XS does have the spawn advantage here, iEnvy is going to be looking to carry on this momentum. They've still got that sound barrier that they're going to be looking to drop out, but that's all the resources that they've really got for this fight. And they don't have a lot of time to try and get back at this stage. Instead, it's going to be 2XS putting on the pressure. Palio going really mad in the background, just using that nano boost as it's intended to be with that massive hammer.
30 seconds left on the clock here for Calypso to try and make something happen. Ultimate twice, Paleo closing in on the Earth Shatter, and they do have Little Clumsy's Deadeye. He's been getting quite good value out of that, but he is fighting into Nixie's sound barrier here, so Cubic close to his as well. A lot of ultimates here, but I think I'm looking at 2x's favored here, but it's going to depend on initiation, and that's a great start.
Oh, they managed to get the Earth Shadow down, and it's not comboed well enough with that Deadeye to get anything out of it, but they've got enough damage out of there. They've comboed the Gravitic Flux as well to just clean up the edge of this team fight. With overtime ticking down, they have managed to stop it mere meters away.
Yeah, impressive. I'm surprised. I'm shocked. I thought Calypso would have been the better team coming into this, but 2XS were on the front foot for most of the series. I'm impressed by their very aggressive style of play, and they managed to close it out.
Just initiating the beginning of this team fight, they just separated these guys completely, meaning that none of the healers were there at the center of it, and so it just seemed like 2XS initiated every one of those last team fights, and it's where that they needed to do it from this entire game. I mean, we've seen everything here. There was such chaos between each of the different maps. It told a different story. And where Calypso at the beginning, you talked about it so many times, they were the ones struggling to finish off a team fight. They were also the ones dragging it out in the third map.
Absolutely. So we don't get to see the reverse sweep here, unfortunately. And I think Calypso were just starting to hit their stride, but 2XS did a great job of shutting down that momentum that was starting to build. And like I said, I liked what I saw out of them quite a lot on Gibraltar. I thought they did a really good job of showing their compositional diversity, and it worked really well against Calypso on this occasion.
Calypso certainly not standing back and letting 2XS dominate them in this matchup, showing so much fight themselves, struggling a little bit in the beginning to feel out 2XS, but reading them well, adapting to them well, coming back, giving a very good run for their money, and even nearly getting it out to the end, nearly taking it to the game 5. It is going to be 2XS taking this one though, and after valiant effort from both teams and some great plays across the board, I gotta ask, who do you think is our MVP for this week? This is gonna be a tough one.
It is a tough one, but thankfully for the right reasons. I think there were a few standout performers, and you know the drill with me. It's always the MVP always comes from the winning team, so
Yeah.
narrows things down nicely for me.
It's Peach, obviously, right?
No bias.
There we go, Peach. Like, at least you know I tried to put it forward for you. But
Yeah, it's just trying to
now to get to the serious actual stuff.
Peach. I don't need cloud with Peach, it's fine. Paleo was a standout performer for me, but so was both DPS on the side of 2XS. We saw huge pop performance from Little Clumsy and Go Outside. But for me, I think just for the way that things started out and the tone it kind of set for the series, I'm going to give it to Little Clumsy. If you cast your mind back all the way to Legion Tower, the first point on Night Market, he was the one who secured that most of the team fights for 2XS there, and I think for me he was a standout performer. So he was my player of the match.
No, I completely agree with you. We saw Go Outside doing great work with the other heroes. I mean, we talked about the Widowmaker there on Volskaya, just getting a couple of very critical headshots to start off fights and playing very well as the DPS is supposed to, as any player is supposed to be honest. But Little Clumsy showing a lot of use and a lot of versatility with that Genji, just managing to get massive Dragon Blades, getting good kills from behind, managing to stay alive for a ridiculously long amounts of time as a Genji. So Little Clumsy certainly came out as well to me, where it just seemed that consistently there were 2 or 3 kills in any fight that would go to him. As just supporting of the team. And that's what you're really wanting. Considering a lot of these maps were characterized by the fact that they were drawn out for so long, if you've got a DPS who can really just actually chain together a couple of those kills and secure the final clearing of a point at the end of it, it's very, very useful.
Absolutely. And we did see him move on to that McCree as well, which was awesome. He wasn't just a Genji one trick. So there is a little bit of depth as well. We really popped up on that hero as well. So interested to speak to.
I'm going to be excited, guys. He is ready for us, so we're going to jump across straight to him now and find out what he has to think. All right, so Little Clumsy, you're here. You've won after, I would say, quite an intense fight. Certainly not an easy one for you guys here tonight, but certainly got to be a good feeling one.
Yeah, no, definitely. It is. It is. Definitely not an easy win, but I'm happy.
Awesome. So I'll go first, I guess. Talk to us a little bit about your preparation and how you guys approach these matches. Do you kind of approach them all the same, or do you give this, different levels of respect to different teams and put in a little more effort against some teams?
We pretty much run the same stuff every week, practice-wise, but like you said, like different teams we approach differently. So if we know that this is going to be a hectic one, we try and put more strats in, a bit more map association. Like when we know we're going to run a certain comp in a certain map against this team, we usually look what they play. So like against the team that we played with Farah, we tried to focus our hit scans for that week just to try and get into the vibe. But in general, it's pretty much just the same every week.
Okay.
Well, you guys certainly did well here tonight. I mean, we talked about it there that Calypso gave you a run for your money, and you just seem to come out with consistently good plays as your Dragon Blades were coming together really nicely. And that's the reason why you're here. We pulled you in here as the most valuable player here in this matchup. What was your biggest struggle against them, especially when they started turning that momentum against you guys?
Well, yeah, towards the end, the Reaper was actually annoying me. It became a bit of a challenge, I will admit. The first game, my Dragon Blade, yeah, like my Genji started off well, and then from there it kind of went downhill.
Mhm.
My aim was completely off after that, but it was a fun challenge. Their Mei was also really annoying at some stage, but their tanks just played really well in general. Like they kind of held me off most of the time, must admit. But it was good.
Awesome. So, talk to me a little bit about your composition. You're one of the only teams we've been seeing running the Winston Reinhardt composition. It's quite an unusual double main tank composition. We usually see, if you're running the Winston, you'll run it with the Diva. You're running the Rhino, run it with the Zarya or a Diva or a Sigma or something. So, what's the idea behind running those two main tanks in coordination with each other?
It's actually all Cameron. So because our players don't, like me personally, I'm not good on all DPS. I have a little bit of hit scan, but I'm main Genji. So dive was definitely our strong suit, but we couldn't pull off a proper dive comp at all. So like our calls were off and all of that. So we tried to kind of find a middle ground because Josh is just an insane Ryan. So he also plays kind of aggro. So we just thought like a half dive comp would work really well. And after testing it, it actually worked out pretty well. So we just stuck to it. But
Well,
that's like,
Yeah, go for it.
sorry, yeah? No, it's just like that's what the comp was based around, more player, like what we
Comfort.
choose to play. Yeah, player comfort. Thank you.
That's huge for a team to have that sort of security on certain heroes where where it's like this doesn't fit together on paper, but it just works in a team. Do you
Yeah.
think that's going to come and be a weak spot that you have to worry about when going against very, very intimidating teams? Do you think it's going to be enough that you've got character comfort, or do you think you're going to have to start actually putting together strats that have a very definite role as you go forward?
Definitely different strats. This player comfort now, even in our games against Calypso today, it was, I think it was our second or third point where we actually realized like it's not working, but we couldn't swap off because we realized too late, like our comp just wasn't working. With when they swapped over to Reaper, our monkey just got destroyed all the time, and we knew Zarya would have been a better choice, but we realized it too late. So we actually mentioned it today that we have to start building our different ones to just actually play around different comps in general, because this isn't going to work against all the teams for sure.
Yeah. So last question from me is just, you guys had a difficult start to the season, dropping quite a few games in succession, but you've now started to string together quite a number of victories. Of course, you beat Kitsune recently, I think it was, and
Yeah.
you've beaten Valiance recently. You took a map off of Vanguard, yesterday or the day before, and now you've beaten Calypso 3-1. So you're starting to build up a little bit of a head of steam here. So how does it feel to start picking up those wins, and does that kind of motivate you to try and get even more wins?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely a rough start, but we're picking up now. Putting more hours in, playing together, actually working as a team. We got a feel of everyone and everything. So I'm just excited to see where it goes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Any words for Calypso, who gave it, or certainly gave you guys a tough run at a couple of stages? I mean, even there on Gibraltar, getting very close there
Whew.
to the final point and getting you guys to not be able to push the whole way. Anything that you'd like to say to them, even just congratulations or suggestions going forwards?
Definitely just congrats and good luck for the rest of the games. They were insane. I hope they do well in the tournament. Good luck, guys.
Awesome.
It will be cool to see them going forwards as they carry on with this. Certainly proving to a lot of people here tonight that they were considered the underdogs with about 30% on the head-to-head before going into this. So very